Norm Norlander here. Next we'd like to take a look at some very interesting techniques for tying what is known as a string leech. This is a style of fly that's getting to be quite popular. It has an awful lot of action in the water and they can be very, very effective. Here's a couple of examples. Basically it's the same fly. One would be tied like this as a egg-sucking leech pattern. The other one up here in brighter colors with a little bit more flash in it would be very useful for fishing salmon. I think you'll really enjoy seeing how these are made. We're going to start out by making a dubbing brush. This is really something that works very well. Place a small hook, just about any hook will do, in your Nor-Vise. We're going to use a little bit of copper wire here and just run this through the eye of the hook. Pull out about a foot or so of wire and give your vise a twist. That'll twist that together. This is called a dubbing brush table. We're going to lay one wire over the table and the other one you just kind of let it dangle in front. I've got some rabbit fur here. This is a rabbit pelt, as it were. And we'll take a couple little clumps of bunny fur here. Clip them off nice, short, tight to the hide, and lay just the butt end of that little clump of fur across your wire. That's the one that's on the table. And we'll take 2 or 3 clumps like this. Yeah, maybe one more, okay? There you go. Now you can use your scissor points or bodkin or whatever and just even these things out a little bit. You don't have to be terribly fussy with it, but just kind of smooth it out just a bit. Yeah, that's pretty good, okay? Now the trick is we bring up our second wire and lay it over the one that's on the table. That forms what's known as a dubbing loop. Pull these 2 wires together. You can kind of push the butt ends of that fur up there a little bit. Lay the table down. Give your Nor-Vise a spin. Nor-Vise is creating what's called a dubbing brush. It's a technique that was brought to us from Eastern Europe. I think it was Poland or Czechoslovakia. Well, anyhow, just spin the thing until the wire breaks off the eye of the hook. There you go, guys. That's called a dubbing brush. And what you probably want to do is make yourself a whole bunch of these things. You can make a shoebox full of them and just set it aside. We're going to assemble the fly in just a little bit. Next part of building the string leech is to actually stitch the string, as it were, onto the rabbit strip, which is going to be the leech part. Here's some interesting ideas on how to do this. First, here's a rabbit strip, okay? And you find it's going to be really helpful if you have a hemostat. Clip it onto the head end of the strip. Now typically you're going to make these things about 3 or 4 inches long. So what we'll do here is we're going to go back about 3 inches and just slide your little pointy scissors there and clip that off. That's going to be the length of our leech. What I found is really helpful is to mark on that strip where you want your stitch points. We'll come in from the front end about 1 inch, put a little dot on there with your marking pen. Come in about 1 inch from the back end, put another dot, and then put 1 dot right in between the 2. So those will be the 3 stitch points. Now to do this, we're going to use a sewing needle. There's your sewing needle. And the string, as it were, is actually some very high-tech material. This is a gel spun polyester line. Pull off about a foot or so. And we'll cut that off. Double it over. Go done here. Pull that together. And we'll thread our needle. It's the hardest part of the whole game there, guys. There, we got it through. Pull it through about, a couple inches or so. And then you can double it back. Okay. You find it's really handy is to have a pair of pliers to do this. We'll start at the head end, and here's a neat trick. Take your Nor-Vise and just lay the bunny strip right over the jaws. And then you can see where that little mark was with our felt pin. Okay, you're going to just stitch right under it. You don't have to go all the way through. You want to keep it kind of in the leather part, as it were. And this is where you use your pliers. You can poke that through and then just draw it through like this. Okay? Now you just let that slip down to the next stitch point. Oops, there we go. And again, we just run the needle right through underneath that mark that we made. Again, slide it through like so. This is much easier than holding it in your fingers. You usually end up poking yourself with a needle. Okay, and then there's the last mark. Run that through. Catch it. Draw it through. Now we've stitched our rabbit strip, as it were, with our connector string. You can see it's very precisely, it's right where you want it. Okay, now grab hold of these tag in there, and you just pull that up until the loop is about halfway between the last dot, or last mark, and the end of the fly. Okay? So you want to make a bunch of these ahead of time, guys. Like so. You do that operation all at the same time. It makes final assembly a whole lot easier. Now let's put it all together. I call this the final assembly. Having made those component parts ahead of time, it's very easy to do. We're going to use a fairly heavy hook. This is, again, one of those Wright McGill hooks. We're not going to use the point on it, so let's just cut it off, okay? And I'm going to put a cone head on here. It's a lot easier after you cut the hook point and barb off of there. Just thread that little beauty on like so, and stick this in your vise, and again you just position it so that you're pretty well centered up, about like that. Perfect. First operation is we're going to lay down a open base. Explain the reason for this in just a moment. Just tie your thread on, and when you put down your base this time, let some of the hook show through. See how we've done that? So you just spiral down. So, okay, lay in a 1/2 inch. Now we take one of the strings that we put together. See, we have a bunch of those things all ready to go. So you're going to just pick up one of these, and we've got it adjusted so that the loop is about halfway between the last stitch point and the end of the fly tail. So we'll turn this over, and we'll tie it on the back here about like this. Okay, a couple nice firm wraps. Okay, now you hold your thread and we spiral forward. Oops, there we go. And again, leave it open. Don't make it edge to edge yet. The reason for this is we're going to glue this onto the hook. Now very often you'll run those loops through the eye of the hook and double them back, but I did some testing and I found out that if we put a nice open spiral on that string attached to the hook like so, we clip it off. To keep it from slipping, we glue it on. Okay, this is some super glue, and we're going to take and brush that on. See how that'll soak through there and it'll get onto the shank of the hook. I actually tried to break one of these and it took about 20 pounds of pull before it failed, so it's quite sturdy. Okay, let's run this forward. I'm going to leave it upside down. Okay, give it a little flash. We're going to use some of this sparkly stuff, a few strands of Flashaboo like this, and just cut that off so. And we're going to take and loop this around our thread so the tips are sort of even, And that way you can very precisely position it right where you want it, like this, okay? So we spiral back right to the tie-in point. Now we can turn the thing back up, right? Secure it with a half hitch. And we get one of our dubbing brushes. Again, see, we had a whole bunch of them there, so it's really easy. Just simply pick up a dubbing brush. We'll tie it in like this. Spiral forward like so, right up to the cone head. Throw in that half hitch. Now the reason we have to put these half hitches in, that cone head lifts the thread over the eye of the hook. So when we get our bobbin out of the way, it may come unraveled if you don't do that. Just roll that right up like so. Now the bobbin comes back. We get back of our wire, in front of the wire, back again. And then you cut your wire out. Use the base of the scissors, not the tips, guys. Secure it with a half hitch, and then whip finish on top of the half hitch. That cone is going to protect that thread from coming undone, so really don't worry too much about gluing it in place. But you see that cone's kind of loose? Here's how to tighten it up. Take your thread, go in front of the cone like this. Oops, clip it off. Half hitch, whip finish on top of your half hitch. A little drop of head cement on there would not be a bad idea. Get this out of the way. Now we can remove our fly from the vise. Now see what's left of that hook? We're not going to need that very much, so let's just cut it out of there, and that way it won't foul up when you're casting. So you just clip that off. Okay, now see how we've left a little bit of room in the back here? We'll strip that body forward. Get a little short shank hook here. Oops, there we go. Yeah, and you run that loop through there. Oops, says here. It's kind of like threading the needle, guys. That's the hardest part of tying the darn fly. Okay, there we go. You open that up. Now this string, as it were, is about 30-pound test. It's pretty strong stuff. It's not the most elegant knot in the world, but it works just fine. Pull that back. And there you've got the String Leech, guys. It just has all sorts of wiggle and flash. These are be very popular around here. The guys are fishing for steelhead with these things. You got that small short shanked hook back there. Fish grabs it, you got them. Very seldom do you lose a fish. I think you're going to find these things really work great.